Assalamualaikum, my name is Kamaraina binti Kamal and my metric number is A1A0798 and I will explain you about the introduction. As we all know, financial management focuses on all elements of acquiring and using financial methods for financial activities. The main purpose of this report to analyze the nature of the business and analyze the ratio for the two companies. We reviewed our assignments using the ratio analysis provided, such as the current ratio, asset test ratio, and so on. Indirectly, it can obtain this information to compare the strengths and weaknesses of both companies in a short period. Based on the ratio used, we can use in horizontal and vertical analysis ratios. One of the common ways to analyze financial data is to calculate ratios from the data in the financial statements to compare them with other companies or against the historical performance itself. So our group has selected two companies, namely Maxis Berhad and Berhad, as the company to calculate and analyze the financial ratio between the two companies.
Hi and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Situ Nur NASHRIAH binti Muhammad NASHRI and number metric is A1980876. Today, I want to present about the company background and the business nature of selected company. Next is about business nature of selected company. First, business nature of Maxis Berhad. Maxis Berhad is an investment holding company which engaged in the provision integrated telecommunication service. Maxis Berhad was established to Malaysia and was kept direct from other countries' geographical segment. Maxis Berhad was offer any product to the customer such as postpaid, prepaid, broadband and also mobile phone. The company was founded in August 2009 and the headquarters is in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. In 2020, the revenue of Maxis Berhad is 8,966 million and the gross profit is 2,478 million. Next, business nature of the Digi.com Berhad. Digi.com Berhad was founded in 1990 at Subang Jaya, Malaysia. Digi.com Berhad was offered variety mobile connectivity such as broadband, voice, enhanced calling, international roaming and also telephone service. Digi.com Berhad is subsidiary of Digi Telecommunication Sdn Berhad. Their profit has more than double likely to RM4.9 billion with 7.7 million subscribers. And in 2018, DJ was hired more than 3,000 employees nationwide in their company. First is company background of Maxis Berhad. Maxis Communication or Maxis Berhad is a communication service provider in Malaysia. They provide a variety of communication product, application and value-added service for consumers. Maxis Berhad was established in 1993. Maxis Berhad is the son of company Usaha Tegas Group Holding Berhad. Usaha Tegas is a private investment of Malaysian billionaire. The owner is Tata Paranandan Ananda Krishnan. Maxis Berhad was become the first mobile communication provider in Malaysia.
Inventory turnover. Inventory turnover is a financial ratio showing how many times a company has sold and replaced inventory during a given period. For example, Maxis Berhad in 2018, they have replaced their inventory 574.50 times. Why?
Second is a company of Digi.com Berhad. Digi Telecommunication Sdn Berhad is a mobile communication company. It also provides a wireless telecommunication, for example, telephony products and services, and variety of mobile service including prepaid plans and service and postpaid plans. Digi.com Berhad was founded in 1995 and the headquarters is in Shah Alam, Selangor, Malaysia. Before this, Digi.com Berhad was known as a Mutiara Telecommunications Sdn Berhad and it was changed to the new name to Digi Telecommunications Sdn Berhad in 1998. In Malaysia, Digis was listed in Bursa Saham Malaysia with the category of infrastructure with current price of RM6.41 billion. There are three types of service provided by Digi. For example, Digi Postpaid Plan, Digi Prepaid and also Business Digi. Digi.com Berhad target to purchase their service is individual and corporate customer. In 2013, they have been awarded number 1 Asia-based managed company and number 1 best corporate responsibility company.
In 2020, DG has the ability to cover its current liability, which is current asset was 0.61 times in 2019. The radio increased to 0.65 times, while in 2020, the radio still increased to 0.78 times. It showed that 2018 was more able to cover its current liability than year 2019. And quick radio in 2018, which is 0.75 times, and for year 2020, they got the lowest radio, that is 0.55 times. In 2018, they got 0.64 times radios. In 2018, the company has the ability to meet this short-term obligation, which is the most liquid asset. The performance getting better from year 2019 to 2020. The lowest net working capital of DG is RM605396 in 2018, while the net working capital in 2019 is RM900310, and the highest net working capital, which is RM983613 in 2020. The performance getting better from year 2018 to 2020. DG inventory turnover in 2020 was 44.84 times the lowest, while in 2080 the inventory turnover is 106.77 times the higher, and decreased to 69.58 in year 2018. The performance getting worse from year 2080 to 2020. The DG fixed asset turnover in 2080 was 2.9 times. The radio increased softly in 2019, which is 3.65 times the highest, and suddenly decreased to 3.56 times in 2020. The average collection period of DG in 2080 was 7.74 days, while 2019 it is 24.44 days. In 2020, the period of average collection of DG is 20.16 days. The firm collects its account receivable based on the calculation. The performance getting better from year 2080 to 2020. The higher the radio, the more secure the company debts to creditor. The DG total asset turnover is 1.05 times in 2028 and decreased on 2019, which is 0.77 times, and the ratio was still decreased in 2020, which is 0.75 times. The performance getting worse from year 2080 to 2020. The higher the value of total asset turnover radio means that the company is better at managing its asset. Conversely, the lower the value of total asset turnover radio means that the company is less able to optimize its asset.
The account receivable turnover of DG in 2018 is 46.737 times more than in the next year, 2019, and year 2020. In 2018, the ratio was the higher difference from year 2019, which is 40.73 times, but the ratio increased a little bit in 2020, which is 70.86 times. DG debt ratio in 2018 was the lowest, which is 0.989%. Debt ratio in 2019 is 0.92%, and debt ratio in 2020 is 0.93%. Among these 3 years, the company had the higher amount of debit on capital structure in 2020, because that year achieved a higher ratio of debit to finance asset. The performance getting better from year to 2018 to 2020. The debit equity keeps increase in that 3 year and was increased from 2018 until 2020. The ratio at 2018 is 8.22% and increased to 11.35% in 2019. Lastly, in 2020, the debit to equity has increased, which are 12.51%. The performance getting worse from year 2018 to 2020. The greater the debit to equity ratio, it means that the company financial resources will be financed by the leader. The DG gross profit margin was decreased from 2018 until 2020, which is in 2018 they got a higher gross profit margin, which is 0.24%. From 2019, it decreased to 0.23% in 2019. The gross profit margin at 2020 is 0.20%. This performance getting worse from year 2018 to 2020. The higher the gross profit margin, the better the operating condition of the company. In 2020, the net profit margin of DG was lowest, which is 90.84% in 2019. The net profit margin is 22.75% more than 2020. In 2028, the net profit is 23.62%. The higher the net profit margin, the more effectively the company converts revenue into actual profit. In 2018, the return on assets showed the ratio, which is 24.83% in 2019. The ratio decreased from 24.83% to 70.58%, while in 2020 it still decreased to 40.91%. Thus, in 2020, showed the lowest rate of return compared to the 3 year. The performance getting worse from year 2018 to 2020 show that the company is more effective in managing its asset and more productive in generating a large amount of net income. The return on equity of DG was keep decreasing from 2080 to 2020, which is in 2080 it's 2.29% to 2.17% in 29, and in 2020 it dropped up to 2.02%, which is the lower return equity. The company had higher return to shareholder in 2080 because it achieved the higher of ROE value. The better the performance in generate net income after deducting tax, with the higher ratio among 3 years. The performance getting worse from year 2080 to 2020.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nurul QURRATUL AINI BINTI ZAHAWAI, metric number A19A0767. I would like to present my part, which is horizontal ratio analysis for Maxis and Berhad. First slide is current ratio and quick ratio. Current ratio and quick ratio measure company short-term liquidity or ability to generate cash to pay off all of debts. From our observation, current ratio in 2018 is 0.59, while in 2019 decreased to 0.53, while in 2020 the ratio showed 0.63. It showed the Maxis Berhad able to pay all of their debts from current ratio. Why? Same with quick ratio. In 2018, they got 0.58. In 2019, they got 0.53, while in 2020 they got 0.63. It showed the ability of the company to pay all of debt for the 3 years. Net working capital. Net working capital is a liquidity calculation that measures a company ability to pay off its current liabilities with current asset. In Maxis Berhad, current liabilities higher than current asset for the 3 years. So it shows that Maxis Berhad cannot afford to pay all of them in 3 years. Inventory turnover. Inventory turnover is a financial ratio showing how many times a company has sold and replaced inventory during a given period. For example, Maxis Berhad in 2018, they have replaced their inventory 574.50 times, while in 2019 it decreased to 3,104.33 times, while in 2020 it should decrease to 2,988.67 times. Average collection period is the average number of days the company to collect their account receivable. For Maxis Berhad, their average collection in 2018 showed 3 days, increased to 7 days in 2019 and decreased to 6 days in 2020. While fixed asset turnover showed how many times a company has replaced their fixed asset. For 2019, Maxis Berhad replaced their fixed asset 1.78 times, while in 2019 they replaced their fixed asset 1.89 times, while in 2020 they replaced their fixed asset 1.82. Total asset turnover. Total asset turnover measure the efficiency of a company asset in generating revenue or sale. In 2018, they were generating revenue or sale at 0.46 times, while in 2019 they showed the decrease to 0.42, and 2020 it slightly decreased to 0.41. Why? Debt to equity show the relation between the portion of asset financed by creditor and the portion of asset by stockholder. In 2018, the debt equity showed 1.77. In 2019, 2.03, and increased to 2.11 in 2020. Account receivable turnover. Account receivable turnover is the number of times per year that a business collect its average account receivable. For example, Maxis Berhad can collect their average account receivable 4.48 in 2018, while in 2019 it decreased to 3.90 and increased to 4.33 in 2020. Beside that, gross profit margin is show how efficiently business at managing their operation. Gross profit margin expressed in percentage. In 2018, gross profit margin for Maxis Berhad is 19.36%, while in 2019 it showed 16.24%, while 2020 it should decrease at 15.41%. Debt ratio is a financial ratio that measures the extent of a company leverage. Debt ratio of Maxis Berhad showed the increase. In 2018, it showed 0.64 times, increased to 0.67 in 2019, and increase and keep decrease to 0.68 in 2020. Profit margin. Net profit margin measure how much net income or profit is generated as a percentage of revenue. In 2018, Maxis Berhad have 0.19, decreased to 0.16 at 2019, and keep decrease at 0.15 in 2020. It conclude that company need to make more change to gain the profitability. Return on asset. Return on asset is a profitability ratio that provides how much profit a company is able to generate from its asset. Maxis Berhad generate their asset in 2018 with 0.09, while in 2019 it decreased to 0.07, and the lowest return on asset is in 2020, which is 0.06. Why? Return on equity is a measure of the profitability of a business in relation to the equity. The return on equity showed the decrease from 2018, which 0.25, and decreased to 0.21 in 2019. It keep decreased to 0.20 in 2020.
Assalamualaikum and Hi guys, my name is SOFIA ANISA, MOHAMED and BASRI, number metering A19A0897. In this video, I want to present about vertical ratio analysis for Maxis Berhad and DG.com Berhad at year 2018. For current ratio, the data shows that DG.com Berhad gets a higher ratio, 0.78 times, reflect the ability to pay its short-term obligation on time compared to Maxis Berhad got 0.59 times. Next, for quick ratio, Maxis Berhad got higher ratio, 0.75 times, to pay its short-term obligation on inventories compares with Maxis Berhad got 0.5x times. Okay guys, for net working capital, Maxis Berhad got higher amount, that is negative 1,875 ringgit. Absolute measure in liquidity compared to DG.com Berhad got negative 605,396 ringgit. In inventory turnover, Maxis Berhad got a higher ratio, that is 574.5 times, reflect the effectiveness of inventory to generate sales compared with DG.com Berhad, that is 106.77 times. Okay guys, next is for average collection period. Maxis Berhad got a higher ratio, that in 81 days, reflect the effectiveness of daily sales compared to DG.com Berhad, that is in 8 days. For fixed asset turnover, DG.com Berhad got higher ratio, that is 2.94 times, reflect the effectiveness of fixed asset to generate sales compared to Maxis Berhad got 1.78 times. Next, for total asset turnover, DG.com Berhad got a higher ratio, that is 1.05 times, reflect the effectiveness of total asset to generate sales compared with Maxis Berhad got 0.46 times. For debt ratio, Maxis Berhad got a higher ratio, that is 63.9%, reflect the higher amount of debt in finance asset compared with DG.com Berhad that got only 6.98%. In debt to equity, Maxis Berhad got a higher ratio, that is 177.03%, reflect the higher amount of debt on equity compared with DG.com Berhad that is got only 64.34%. Next, for gross profit margin, DG.com Berhad got a higher ratio, that is 31.86%, indicate higher contribution margin compared with Maxis Berhad that got only 19.36%. Next, for account receivable turnover, DG.com Berhad got a higher ratio, that is 46.37 times, reflect the effectiveness compared with Maxis Berhad, that is 4.47 times. For net profit margin, DG.com Berhad got a higher ratio, that is 23.61%, indicate better income to shareholder compared with Maxis Berhad that got only 19.36%. Next is return on asset. Digi.com Berhad got a higher ratio, that is 24.83%, indicate higher return on firm investment compared with Maxis Berhad that got only 8.99%. Lastly, return on equity. Digi.com Berhad get a higher ratio, that is 228.88%, indicate higher return on shareholder compared with Maxis Berhad that got only 24.9%. That's all from me. Thank you. Bye.
Assalamualaikum and Hi. My name is Nurul Syazwa binti ABDUL. My nomenclature is A19A0775. I would like to present about vertical ratio analysis for Maxis and Digi.com Berhad for the year 2019. First ratio is a current ratio. Formula of current ratio is a current asset divide current liabilities. For Maxis, 2,986 divide 5,657 and get the answer is 0.53 times. For Digi.com Berhad, 1857178 divide 2757488 and get the answer is 0.67 times. Digi.com Berhad company was the highest current ratio than Maxis company. Next, we move to second current ratio. For the second current ratio is a quick ratio. Formula of quick ratio is current asset minus inventory divide current liability. For Maxis, 2,986 minus 3 divide 5,657 and get the answer is 0.53 times. For Digi.com Berhad, 1857178 minus 90501 divide 2757488 and get the answer is 0.64 times. Because of that, Digi.com Berhad company was the highest quick ratio than Maxis company. Third current ratio is a net working capital. Formula of net working capital is current asset minus current liabilities. For Maxis, 2,986 Malaysian ringgit minus 5,657 Malaysian ringgit and get the total is 2,671 ringgit Malaysian negative. For the Digi.com Berhad, 1857178 ringgit Malaysian minus 2757488 ringgit Malaysian and get the total is 900,310 ringgit Malaysian negative. And the conclusion and lastly we have Maxis company was the lowest net working capital than Digi.com company. Next ratio is inventory turnover. Formula of inventory turnover is COGS or sale divide inventory. For the Maxis is 9,330 divide 3 and get the answer is 3,104.33 times. And for Digi.com Berhad is 297358 divide 90501 and answer is at 69.58 times. So, Maxis company was the highest inventory turnover than Digi.com Berhad company. And next ratio is a average collection period. For formula of average collection period is AC receivable or account receivable divide daily sale. For the Maxis is 2,390 divide 9,330 and get 0.26 divide 360 and get the answer is 7 day. For the digi.com Berhad is 427,565 divide 629,7358 divide 330 and get the answer is 24.44 days. So the conclusion is digi.com Berhad company was the lowest day sale in inventory than Maxis company. Next current ratio is a fixed asset turnover. Formula of fixed asset turnover is sale divide fixed asset. For the Maxis is 9,330 divide 4,922 and the answer is 1.89 times. For digi.com Berhad 6297358 divide 1727236 and the answer is 3.65 times. So Maxis company was the lowest fixed asset turnover than digi.com Berhad. Next current ratio is total asset turnover. Formula of total asset turnover is sale divide total asset. For the Maxis is 9,330 divide 22,323 and the answer is 0.42 time. For the digi.com Berhad 6297358 divide 8149441 and the answer is 0.77 times. So Maxis company was the lowest total asset turnover than digi.com Berhad company. Next ratio is a debt ratio. Formula of debt ratio is total liability divide total asset. For the Maxis is 40,367 divide 21,437 and the answer is 0.67%. For the digi.com Berhad is 7489454 divide 8149441 and the answer is 0.92%. So Maxis company was the lowest debt ratio than digi.com Berhad company. Next, we move to the debt to equity ratio. Formula of debt to equity is total liability divide total shareholder equity. For the Maxis is 40,367 divide 7,070 and the answer is 2.03%. For the digi.com Berhad is 7489454 divide 659987 and the answer is 11.35%. So we can conclude that Maxis company was the lowest debt to equity than digi.com Berhad company. Next, we move to next ratio is a gross profit margin. Formula of gross profit is gross profit divide sale times 100. For the Maxis, next ratio is account receivable turnover. Formula of account receivable turnover is sale divide account receivable. For the Maxis is 9,330 divide 2,390 and the answer is 3.90 times. For the digi.com Berhad is 6297358 divide 427565 and the answer is 40.73 times. So we can conclude that Maxis company was the lowest account receivable turnover than digi.com Berhad. The third last ratio is a net profit margin. Formula of net profit margin is net income divide sale. For the Maxis is 1,590 divide 9,330 and the answer is 0.16%. For the digi.com Berhad is 1,432,949 divide 6297358 and the answer is 0.22%. So we can conclude that DG.com Berhad company was the highest net profit margin than the Maxis company. The second last ratio is a return on asset. Formula of return on asset is net income divide total asset. For the Maxis, 1,590 divide 21,437, and the answer is 0.07%. And for DG.com Berhad is 1,432,949 divide 81,49,441, and the answer is 0.17%. So we can conclude that DG.com Berhad company was the lowest return on asset than Maxis company. The lastly current ratio is return on equity. Formula of return on equity is net income divide common equity. So for the Maxis is 1,590 divide 7,070, and the answer is 0.21%. For the DG.com Berhad, 1,432,949 divide 659987, and the answer is 2.17%. So we can conclude that DG.com Berhad company was the highest return on equity than the Maxis company.
Assalamualaikum. Okay, my name is RABIATUL ADAWIYAH binti HASAN. Okay, I want to talk about the vertical ratio for analysis Maxis and DG Berhad for the year 2020. Okay, the first ratio is current ratio. Current asset divide current liabilities. Maxis 0.63 times. DG.com 0.61 times. So Maxis company was the highest current ratio than DG.com. Second is quick ratio. Current asset minus inventory divide current liability. So Maxis 0.63 times and DG 0.45 times. So Maxis company was the highest quick ratio than DG.com. Next is net working capital. Current asset minus current liabilities. So for the Maxis, RM negative 1639, and then for the DG.com, RM negative 98313. So yeah, Maxis company was the lowest net working capital than DG.com company. Okay, next is inventory turnover. Cost of goods sold or sale divide inventory. Maxis is 2988.67 times, and then for DG is 44.84 times. So Maxis company was the highest inventory turnover than DG.com. Next is average collection period. Account receivable divide daily sale. Maxis is 6 days, and then for the DG.com is 1 day. So Maxis company the lowest and the highest average collection period than DG.com. And then we fee assets turnover sale divide fee asset. Maxis is 1.82 times, and then for the DG.com 3.56 times. So the DG.com the highest fee asset turnover than Maxis company. Next after that is total asset turnover sale divide total sale. Maxis is 0.41 times and DG is 0.75 times. So the Maxis company was the lowest total asset turnover, then DG.com. Okay, then is debt ratio. Total liability divide total asset. So for Maxi is 0.68%, DG.com is 0.93%. So DG.com the highest debt ratio than Maxi company. Okay, next is debt to equity. Equity. So total liability divide total shareholders equity. For Maxi is 2.11%, and then DG.com is 12.51%. So Maxi's company the lowest debt to equity than DG.com. And then gross profit margin. Gross profit divide sale times 100. Okay, Maxi is 15.41%. DG.com is 0.2%, 20%. So Maxi company was the lowest profit margin than DG.com. And then account receivable turnover. Sale divide account receivable. So for the Maxi's company get the 4.83 times, and then for the DG.com is 17.86 times. So yeah, DG.com is the highest account receivable turnover than Maxi's company. Okay, then is debt ratio. Total liability divide total asset. So for Maxi is 0.68%, DG.com is 0.93%. So DG.com the highest debt ratio than Maxi company. Okay, next is debt to equity. Equity. So total liability divide total shareholders equity. For Maxi is 2.11%, and then DG.com is 12.51%. So Maxi's company the lowest debt to equity than DG.com. And then gross profit margin. Gross profit divide sale times 100. Okay, Maxi is 15.41%. DG.com is 0.2%, 20%. So Maxi company was the lowest profit margin than DG.com. And then account receivable turnover. Sale divide account receivable. So for the Maxi's company get the 4.83 times, and then for the DG.com is 17.86 times. So yeah, DG.com is the highest account receivable turnover than Maxis company.
Assalamualaikum, my name is ANISA binti KAMAL and my metric number is A19A0798, and I will explain you about the conclusion. In conclusion, we can see that DG.com Berhad has a higher return to shareholders in 2018 as it achieved the highest ratio in the 3 years. the performance worsened from 2018 to 2020, namely in 2018, which is 2.29%, in 2019, 2.17%, and in 2020, it fell to 2.01%. For Maxis Berhad, the company also has a higher return for share users in 2018 as it achieves the ratio within 3 years. Unfortunately, the performance also worsened from 2018 to 2020, which is in 2018 0.25%, in 2019 0.21%, and in 2020 0.20%. Thus, the profits for DG.com Berhad exceeds that of Maxis Berhad each year, while Maxis Berhad's profits decreased significantly compared to DG.com Berhad. There are some suggestions for two companies to improve their financial management and earn more profits. First, the companies need to reduce overhead. By doing that, it's such a simple and effective method to increase the net profit of both companies. Both companies can also seek advice to improve their financial statements. For example, they should seek the services of consultants who specialize in financial management, so they can know what they must do and not do to increase their profits in the future. Finally, they need to increase the conversion rate. For instance, increasing sales conversion in both companies is one of the fastest and lowest cost methods, so indirectly it can improve their financial management and earn more profits.